All right, welcome back, everyone. We're gonna do a playthrough of Legacy of You, which is a solo only game from Garphill Games, designed by Shem Phillips. He's designed several other games. This is the first of his that I've played, and I'm really drawn to it because it's solo only. It's also got a campaign um, structure where you have to win 7 times before you lose 7 times. And then a storybook that goes along. So some of these cards will trigger the out, add other cards in. There's a story deck here. Um, so some variations, some customization as we go. We're not going to get too much into the campaign here because we're just going to do a single play. Um, if you lose the game gets easier. So there's this sort of self-balancing mechanism there. And depending on how you lose, like if you lose to barbarians or if you lose to the flood, that affects kind of how you change the game um, uh, before your next game. So the, the theme of the game is that you're playing the legendary canal builder, Yu, who is taking over for his father, who didn't succeed at stopping the floods on the Yangtze River and was maybe killed by the emperor. Anyway, he was taking over for his father and um, trying to divert the floods, the seasonal floods on the Yangtze, so the Chinese civilization and cities can flourish. Um, and as you build the canal, as you try to build the canals to divert the water, you're being attacked by barbarians. So you have to fend them off while you build your canal, you build your sections of canal before the flood catches up with you. So I'll explain a little bit that in more mechanical terms. You're also managing a work camp represented here by this deck of cards, and that's your engine building. So you have your cards, you can tuck cards along here, you can build buildings, and all those will increase your turn-to-turn economy, your engine, and allow you to complete the canal before the flood catch you or the barbarians run you. Um, so taking all that into kind of components in game terms, I'll just kind of describe a few things. So along the top row here, all right, sorry, I had to fix something with my video there, uh, take out some of the lag. So um, as I was saying, this top row, you can recruit your townsfolk cards into your exhaust pile here. Um, and here at bottom, you have a provision cost for each of these slots. You can also, and that's what it costs to recruit them. It also, that's what it costs to go and try to defeat one of the barbarians who happen to be in that, if they're in that slot. Um, and the barbarian card, as you can see more closely here, up on the upper left, you have colored meeples. Um, and that's what you would need to provide 2 blues and a red in the provision cost of the slot in order to defeat this barbarian. In the upper right describes what you get, and at the bottom describes what you do if you lose it to the end of the round. So you would take 1 damage, um, or you could bribe them with 2 cowrie shells. So damage happens by taking a card off the top of your townsfolk deck and putting it into the townsfolk discard pile. So discard pile, exhaust pile, different. Um, so the townsfolk, this just represents the kind of flow of workers you have available to you. As you can see here, each townsfolk card in the upper left, it shows what you get when you play it. So if I had this in my hand and I put it into my exhaust pile, I could get what's in the brown box. If I decide to discard it and take it out of the circulation of my deck, I would get both. I'd get the red and the brown. And this this icon here is not used normally. There's a story card that activates that. Here at the bottom, this symbol represents harvest. So if I were to tuck this card here, I would get one laborer, one plain white meeple. So that's an important way to build your economy. You just tuck your townsfolk cards here, and you don't get them back, but they're giving you something every turn. Um, And here in the middle, we have the canal sections. So each of these are cards, and on top you can see the cost. So this first section of the canal would cost uh, 2 laborers, 2 cowrie shells. You'd have to provide that, and then you could build it. And at the bottom is what you get. You get a clay, a lumber, and then this would send you to the storybook section 42. And so as you go through the game, what you're going to do is you're building these items. So, and the flood, so this represents the next, that stays on the next section available to you. And if you build one in a turn, you take it off. You can only build one section per round. And the flood is this uh, wave token here. And the flood advances every time you have to reshuffle this deck. So one way you lose the game is if this card ever, if the flood um, token ever lands on a card. So it could be on a space. You can, once you build the thing, can be here. If it goes off the board entirely, you would lose. So you have to just stay ahead. You have to keep track of how many cards you have left here and kind of budget your resources accordingly. Another way you lose the game is if at any point you ever have 7 barbarians up here. So if this is ever full all the way across, you lose the game. Here on the board, that's a red icon right here. This says how many barbarians you turn over. So it says +1. So I'm turning over 1 barbarian every turn. And every 2 sections of canal, you add another. So you start the game just doing 1, and then as you go along, it's 2, then 3, then 4. Um, so that's an important kind of pacing thing. You've got to stay on top of your barbarians. Not only can you lose the game that way, the more barbarian you have, the more damage you're potentially taking in return, and the less resources you have to build canal sections. Here at the bottom are your various buildings. You have farms, outposts, and huts. So farms give you a simple bonus every harvest. You can get a laborer, a provision, or any color of your choice of advanced worker. Outposts allow you to treat colors of meeple as interchangeable. So if you were to build this outpost, laborer equals a black meeple. So black equals white, white equals black. If you were to build black and blue, then you'd have white equals black equals blue. So it just creates much more flexibility in terms of how you use your meeples. So for example, if I had the blue one uncovered and I went to get this barbarian here, I'd use 2 whites instead of 2 blues. And here you have huts. And so building one of these, each of these cards has a bonus, a single bonus on the back. These open up another slot where you can tuck a card and build your harvest economy, and it also opens up another action slot here. So you start the game with just one here. You can place any meeple, any color, doesn't matter, white or advanced, and you get a provision. Here you can place any meeple and you get an advanced worker of your choice. Here's you get a resource of your choice. Here you can draw another card, and there is just 2 cowrie shells. This is the most important way to build your economy is opening up more of these slots to give yourself that action, but also gain cards to tuck for the harvest. Another mechanism is trading. So you start the game, there's 2 options here. So for clay or lumber, But as you build sections of the canal, you unlock other trading possibilities. So you can get provisions, you can exhaust a card for 2 cowrie shells, you can make an advanced worker of any color, you can just buy a laborer. Here you can 2 provisions, 2 shells, and you can draw a card directly from the townsfolk deck. And then at the end, you can trade your resources straight for cowrie shells. So those are important ways that you can try to maximize your turns later in the game. Also, these I'll choose up again. These spaces with a white square around them, these are build slots. So you start the game with just one option, but as you build sections of the canal, you unlock more space built so you can go over farms or heights. The first 3 sections just have one build slot, the fourth and the fifth um, have 2, and the last has 1. So I think that's a pretty good overview of the kind of components and layout of the board. Um, we'll go through the turn structure just as a play. I think it's pretty. It won't. It's not very complicated. Um, so you'll get that pretty quickly. But just to reiterate, the ways to win. So winning means building all sections of the canal and surviving to the end of that round. And the 3 ways you can lose are if you get 7 barbarians, if the flood lands on a unbuilt section of canal or leaves the board, or if you need to take a damage, meaning destroy a card from your deck, and you cannot. So I think we can get started here shortly, but before we do, I just want to offer a few kind of strategy tips. So I played through the campaign and I was able to win it. I kind of learned a few things along the way that I kind of will share with you now. Um, if you don't want to hear this and you want to learn it by yourself, you can skip ahead to where I start the playthrough. Um, but the few things I learned is you really want to stay on top of barbarians. Um, so I really try to start taking barbarians once they hit this slot. Um, early on because these furthest slots are 3 provisions. So once it decreases to 2, I think that's a good use, starts to be a good use of your provisions to start keeping in control of the barbarians so you don't start to get overrun and you don't take a ton of damage. And in the first few turns, you really want to maximize recruiting new townsfolk to your deck. So by the time you cycle your deck the first time, you've really built up a good amount, so you're not going to kind of run low on townsfolk card, which not only gets you closer to losing, but it also means that the flood is advancing even more quickly because you have a shorter deck. So early on, you want to be doing this, and the first couple turns do that, and then start to take out barbarians. You always get, by the way, this guy is free. You always get 1 townsfolk per turn for free. Another tip I have is that really pay attention to, don't build a section of canal that uh, increases the number of barbarians um, too early. You really want to be careful about that. You have these gap canal spaces in between the barbarians. So, you know, you could go ahead and build this and you're not going to increase your number of barbarians, but by and large, you kind of want to wait as long as possible to build a section of canal, I found, and just don't do it early. Do everything with the resources. You got action blocks, um, for workers, build up, take out barbarians, but don't invest it in building canal until the flood either forces you to, like you're gonna flood because your deck's low, or you just have so many resources you think you can handle it. Um, and the tip I would say is you really don't neglect. Obviously, it's probably obvious, but don't neglect your economy. You really want to tuck something your first turn. Um, you might not be able to build something your first turn. It really depends on what townsfolk card are in your deck and whether you're able to get the clay and lumber resource. Uh, But the best thing to build, if you can, is another hot slot here. You not only get the little bonus on the back, you get the next action slot, this available new action, and you can also tuck another card. So this is the best way to build your economy. If you really don't think you're going to get there, building farms is a good option. Um, my preferred first one is this any color advanced worker, because then you can be looking at the barbarians coming and taking a worker that helps you defeat them. So getting that kind of helps you stay ahead of your barbarians in the early game before you have easy access to um, advanced workers. And the last thing I would say is the outposts are kind of a later game bonus, I think. Like, I don't really build those until when we get in the second half of the game. And then I'm kind of looking at the state of my, if I'm getting a blue worker every turn, I may build that outpost. So that blue worker becomes a little more flexible. But early game, it's not worth your resources. It doesn't do a lot to build your economy. It's more about giving yourself flexibility as you approach the end game. So I think that's good. We can leave it there and just jump into the playthrough. So your first harvest, the base harvest is you get 4 cards. You get a white meeple and a provision and a cowrie shell. That's all you get to start. So let's see what I have. Oh, well, all right. So I got no resources unless I discard this card. So I'm getting basically I've got a handful of meeples and no resources. So it's going to be harder for me to build unless I choose to exhaust one of these, and I don't think I want to do that. So um, hmm, it's going to be interesting. I will go ahead and tuck this guy right away. So that means I guess I do get some resources starting next turn. You see, he's got the clay and the cowrie shell. So that actually I should have mentioned as a strategy tip of what you tuck here right away. Really go for the resources. Go for lumber, cowrie shells, provisions, clay. I think clay is the most valuable resource because these huts take 3 clay. Um, so that's pretty valuable. You are going to get some of the clay and lumber by building canal sections, uh, but not enough to really do enough building. So go ahead and tuck that. Um, Actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to tuck. It's the same benefit, but it's the red worker. I'm choosing to keep the card in rotation that gives me a laborer. Uh, so we'll do that, and then I think I'll just exhaust all these. So I'll get 2 yellow and a white, and then go ahead and place one there to get another provision. And I will recruit him, use both of my provisions, and recruit these 2. Each of those slots are 1. Um, and that's going to be my turn. So now I take damage, so I suffer attacks. I can't bribe him. Bribing, I don't know if I can reach out here. Sorry if you had a bunch of lag there for some second. A pop-up came up on my screen. So I'm going to take a damage from him. So damage means discarding from the top of my deck. And then uh, move on, refresh the card row. So to refresh the card row, you shuffle remaining townsfolk all the way to the left. You move existing barbarians, create enough spaces for however many you have to draw. So in this case, 1. And then you fill any remaining slots with townsfolk card. And then move on to the next harvest. So I draw 4 cards. I have 1 left, so I'm going to have to build that section of canal this turn, or I will lose. That's okay. I have the resources I need to do that. Bring him back, and we proceed. So I've got some more labor, more worker, more meeple cards. I do have 1 provision and a cowrie shell card. So, oh, I forgot to grab my from this card. So I get a clay and another cowrie shell. So, well, I know I need to build that canal section. So let's just go ahead and do that. You'll get to see the first story card entry. So I trade 2 laborers and the cowrie shells, and I build this. So I get my clay and lumber. And this tells me to go to entry 42. All right, entry 42. So all these entries have some italicized part, which is kind of a narrative about what's happening. I'll go ahead and read this one just so you can get a feeling for that. But then as we go through this game, I won't read all of them, just kind of in the interest of time. So 42. Another canal completed, another band of rebels seen scouting the camps along the river. The floodwaters flow away from the essential lands and into streams and rivers, creating safe land to farm and settle. It is my hope that these men and women will see the restoration of this land and come to help complete this righteous work. In later seasons, we will need to create more canals to take the flood all the way to the sea where it can finally rest. But for today, we will celebrate the work of our hands. And then it tells you what to do. So file the constructed canal card. Here we go in the box under history. Find card 46 in the story deck and place it face down on top of the barbarian draw pile. So we completed the canal, but we have brought into play another barbarian. And so you can see her. She's a little more, I don't know if she's more challenging. She's actually kind of easier because you can use any advanced worker. She does more damage though, and her defeat ability, once you defeat her, you get to take a townsfolk right from the townsfolk draw pile to your hand. So she goes on top of the draw deck. We're going to see her next. And on with our turn. So I'd like to do, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to build. I'm not going to have enough to build a hut. I can build a farm, and I think I should do that. So let's grab my laborer, a clay, and a wood, and we'll build a farm. So let's open up this any choice advanced worker, and we'll cover up this spot there. We covered up the provisions, so we get another provisions. Then I think I'll just go ahead and exhaust my hand. I'm not gonna discard any of these people, not yet. I want to keep my stack. So we're going to get a provision and a shell, yellow, white, and black. So we've got a nice little stash of workers here. And um, looking up here at this row, this guy takes black and yellow to defeat. So he's not going to be the cheapest slot. The cheapest slot would be blues and reds, but we don't have blues and reds. So maybe next turn we pay uh, an additional provision to go out 1 further slot to get him. Because next turn I want to start taking barbarians. I don't want to let it get out of control. So the last thing we can do, we can place a worker there, get another provision. And now let's recruit. So this guy's free. And then let's just pay 2 provisions to get these two. Um, and we'll save this because if we do want to go further out, um, we'll need those extra provisions. And these are going to get cheaper as they slide down. So that's our turn. We take damage, so we either take 2 damage, we can bribe that guy with 2 cowrie shells, which we have. I think we can do that. We don't really, you only need shells to build canal sections, and we're not going to need to do that next turn. So let's go ahead and pay those 2 shells, but then we take 1 damage for that guy. And then we refresh the card row, still only getting 1 barbarian, and there's that advanced lady. Oh, maybe that would be smart, maybe to go out and get her, because we can use any color we want for that. And we do save ourselves that extra damage that she does. So we need to shuffle our deck, which means the flood advances. We're still safe. And we can draw 4 cards. We get 2 cowrie shells, a clay, 1 provision, and then we can get a worker of any color. I do think I'm going to come out and get her, so that means I can use whatever colors I want. So why don't I get a blue and start working towards what I need to pick out that guy. I'm going to look at our hand here. We don't have any resources. The townsfolk we started the game with, we don't have very many clay or wood resources, so that's making building hard. Um, Defeating him will get us a wood, defeating him will get us a clay, but it's going to be hard for us to build this turn unless we generate some cowrie shells and trade for what we need. If we were to defeat him, we could get cowrie shells and a clay, then we could trade cowrie shells for a wood, and then we would have enough to build its hut. We could possibly end the turn with enough provisions to bribe her and avoid her damage. We are probably going to take that damage, but that's okay. Alternative is we could just come out here and defeat her, and then we draw a card from the deck, but there's no guarantee that's really going to give us anything. So I actually kind of like this strategy going for him. So I'm going to backtrack here. And so instead of taking blue as my random worker, I'm going to take black. So I have the right colors to defeat him. And so let's do that now. Let's go ahead and pay 3 provisions, 2 blacks and a yellow, and we defeat him. So we get 2 cowrie shells and clay, and then we're going to trade 3 shells and grab ourselves lumber with this trade ability. Now we're going to trade those 3 clays and a lumber to build. So we're covering up a shell, so we get that, and then okay, we get to draw another card. So not from there, we get to draw one from our deck. Kind of a double-edged sword sometimes, like maybe you don't want to draw. It's never optional, that ability. So we're still safe. We're not going to draw the flood. It's at the end of this turn, though. And so we draw this fellow, uh, to not all that exciting. Um, Blue workers. And let's see what else we want to do. So we definitely want to tuck here. Let's tuck. Oh, I'm thinking about tucking this guy. Um, we would get to draw an additional card every harvest and a cowrie shell, but it does give us 2 provisions, which I think I want to use. So then we're looking at all these guys. So these are the different tuck abilities here. We've got tuck for black, blue, or white. I don't like doing that. I don't like kind of focusing in on a specific color workers so early, but I think I think that's what we should do. So I'm going to go ahead and tuck this guy. Um, I have another yellow. I can get another yellow here. So we'll get blue. It'll be useful in the short term to take care of these two. And what else can we do this turn? So we're not gonna, I'd like to do some recruiting. So let's get two provisions there. Let's play one of these workers there to get another provision. So now we have three. If we want to bribe her, that's going to take two of them. So you can recruit her. That's the free slot. I could, let's see, how many townsfolk card? One, two, three, four, five, six. Got eight here, two in the discard. I think I'm going to go ahead and discard him. So I'm going to get a yellow and a provision. And that's just going to allow me to recruit um, something a little more useful. So let's just take both of these out of these slots here. Then I think with our last two townsfolk, we'll just discard them. So we'll get a blue and a white. And now we still have this slot here. So let's just go ahead and the yellow there and get us a blue. Now we have the two blues, and next turn we can use this slot here to get a red. So we'll have what we need to defeat him. So looks to be, actually no, we're going to get a blue at harvest next turn. So why don't I grab a red? And then, no, reset. Looks to be all we can do. We can avoid damage entirely by discarding all of our resources. Next turn at harvest, we're going to get two cowrie shells, which is what we need to do the next canal section. So I think we'll just do two provisions. No, we'll do it all. We'll do it all. Avoid damage entirely. All right, refresh our card row. So you can see this is starting to take out barbarians. Not only gives you resources for defeating them, but it just keeps you getting more options here. Um, you're avoiding the damage there. It's kind of it's good to stay on top of. All right, next harvest. Our four cards. We get our two shells, our provision, our clay, our blue worker, and then we need a worker of any color. That's blue worker. There we go. I grabbed black instead of blue and was confused for a second. Um, so I'm seeing blacks and reds. Why don't we grab a black? Looking ahead, start building that up. All right. Um, great. So we are at four cards left in our townsfolk deck. We're going to take some damage this turn, probably. So we do want to look at building the next section of canal. So we can get there. We've got our one white and we've got another white here in hand. And we've got two cowrie shells. So we can do that. We have enough to defeat him. We have enough to defeat her too, but I don't think we're going to get enough provisions to get there. We've got one in our hand. We can cover up that for one more. So that's two more. We still only have three. So we can do one or the other. And see, the trouble is once we build this, we're now dealing two barbarians. So um, every turn. So we're going to start having to defeat two every turn unless, or else we're going to eventually slowly lose. Now, if we exhaust these instead of, so these two, if we exhaust these two instead of discard them instead of exhausting them, we can get 2 additional provisions, which would then, so that's 3 here, 1 there, so that's 4 more. We would have enough to take out both of those barbarians. Oh, it's tempting. Certainly tempting. We'd have enough to do that and build this canal section. Although we might not need to build that because we can bribe this fellow with play and we would take no damage next turn and then draw our last 4 cards. Why don't we do that? Because if we don't build this, we're only drawing 1 barbarian, and so we can knock them back with slots and buy ourselves a little more time rather than accelerate the game a little bit by getting more barbarians every turn. So and we do have to lose 2 workers in order to do that. But I think that's okay. 'Cause then that additional turn, we could do another recruit back up, I think. So let's exhaust both of those. So we get 2 provisions, cowrie shell, we get a laborer and another provision. Let's go ahead and use this. Let's use the black worker to get ourselves another black worker, I think. Yeah, so now we're working up to get him eventually down the road, and we use that black to get another provision. Okay, and so then we'll send these guys out to defeat him. So that is, we get ourselves 2 shells and a lumber. And then let's send these 3 out to defeat her. And we get ourselves draw a card. Cool. Nice provision and a shell. So we replaced exactly what we discarded there. Cool. Now let's go ahead and recruit her, and then we'll exhaust her provision and a shell, and then use that provision and recruit here. This is nice. It's kind of straight provision card. We can't build. There's no slots to build, so we could have built and then traded cowrie shells for the clay. We could have built a farm. We have the resources, but there's no slots, so can't do that. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else we can do. So let's go ahead and just exhaust those. We'll get those workers and then move to the end of turn. So we're going to bribe him with our clay. Avoid damage. We have to do that, otherwise we'd reshuffle the deck and lose because the flood would land on a card. And let's reset the card row. So we're still just dealing 1. So we've knocked those barbarians quite a ways back. So I think this turn, I guess we could skip it. Then they zoom out too. I don't know. Maybe we kind of, yeah, I don't know actually. Defeating both of those, it's kind of a pickle because if we just defeat 1 and then we did this, they'd be at 2. We'd have left 2 and then they deal 2, so we're here. If we defeat 2 and then do no barbarians this turn, I don't know. I liked what we did. I liked what we did. All right. I'm gonna put the barge back there. All right, so now we do our uh, harvest. So we get our 2 shells, provision, clay, white and blue, and then we're going to get one of any color. So I know he's going to come out to us. So let's go ahead and get red. We've got lots of meeples here. That's kind of a strength of ours this game, I think, because of the townsfolk cards we've had available to us. Some games you end up with lots of resources, other games mix. In this game, it looks like we're getting a lot of meeples. So, beginning of our turn, let's go ahead and recruit first, because if we end up cycling our deck, we're going to cycle our deck once we build this canal section. And we want to have as much in our discard as possible to then reshuffle. So we may want to do all our exhausting in recruiting first. So we get all that into the next draw. We just have the one provision. We could get another one here. Now, if we say we're not going to defeat any barbarians, which I don't think is a great idea, is we can trade cowrie shells for provisions. So we can probably get enough what we need. I think we need to do that. We need to defeat one. So let's go for this guy. So we'll save the resources we need to defeat him. So that's provision, and then I'll just stack 4 cowrie shells because you trade 2 cowrie shells for provisions. That's what we need to defeat him. We need 2 laborers and a cowries to build our section here. Cool. I think we're going to be able to build the next hut as well. Once after we defeat him, we can um, have the right thing. So we may want to hang on to one of these cards in order to tuck it for its resources. We will draw another one. So maybe, because I don't love, I mean, I've got, so the cards in my hand, I've got, let's see here. These are the abilities. So we've got 2 reds, blue, and then a clay and a cowrie shell. I'm already benefiting from that here. So I don't know that I need to double up. Oh, we won't need to trade cowrie shells for the clay because when we build this canal section, we're going to get a clay there. Okay. I don't love. I'm gonna take my chances and see what I draw again once I defeat him, and maybe that's what I tuck because I don't think it. I don't love these options, so I'll just take my chances. So I'm just going to go ahead and discard all of these cards. So I'm going to get black, white, clay, and blue. And I can't do him first because then I'd have to draw a card and I'd cycle. So the first thing I have to do is build the canal section. So we'll go ahead and do that. We get a clay and a lumber, and we take a damage. So we can't have no cards left in the deck, so we have to shuffle it. And then that advances the flood. We have so many meeples, so swimming in meeples. Let's go ahead and use a blue here to get ourselves a provision. And we can use, doesn't particularly matter, let's use a yellow there to get another black. No, not yellow, because we need that. Yeah, use the blue. All right, let's go ahead and build this next hut. So we trade a laborer, 3 clays, and a wood. And this directs us to story entry 11. So we're covering up a worker of any color slot. So um, I don't know. I feel like I'm rich in workers, so I'll just take a red. So I'm going to go ahead and look at 11. We'll resolve 11. Um, mm, Okay, so this file this one under history, and we're adding we're adding a different canal section into the setup for future games. So it doesn't change anything about this game, but potentially next game. All right, and now we're going to come out and take care of him. So before we do that, uh, let's trade for some cowrie shells, or sorry, trade shells for provisions, and then we'll spend them and defeat him. So that gets us one shell, and we can draw a card, black, and we can draw another card. So we've got a 14. Seems like a lot now, but now every time I build a canal section, I'm going to take 2 damage. So I think I won't exhaust her. Uh, we'll just take another black meeple. Oh, I said I was thinking about pucking instead. I don't think I want to. The her harvestability is red, and that's just I don't want another color meeple. I want resources, either provisions or lumber. So we'll see if I can get that. Um, and before I reshuffled, I should have done some more recruiting here. I didn't follow my own advice. Oh well. We're going to place this here. Now I could put everything I need to go ahead and come all the way out and defeat him, but I don't think I want to. I think I want to use some resources to do some recruiting. So I can get a clay, lumber, or cowrie. I'm going to get clay next turn. I have a lumber. I think I'll get a cowrie shell. And now I will trade 4 shells for 2 provisions, and then I'll use those 2 provisions to recruit these 2 townsfolk. And that's our turn. I'm going to bribe him with that provision. So I take no damage. Then reset card row. We're now dealing 2 barbarians every turn. And on to the next harvest. These guys back. 4, and we get 2 shells, provision, clay, white, blue, and 1 of any choice. Lots of yellow coming up. I don't got a yellow. Let's see what we got. Yes, all of the townsfolk for their harvest ability is just advanced workers. Not great, not great. Uh, it does set me up to handle barbarians pretty well if I can get enough provisions to deal with it. So let's recruit her for free. Oop, barge comes back. And all right, so now we're dealing with 2 barbarians every turn. So we can definitely want to defeat. We have no provision draw in our hand. We have let's go ahead and get this provision here. We have so many workers, not even a problem. So that's what we need there. This little 2 provisions, black, black, yellow. So we've got that. I think I'm only gonna get 1 barbarian this turn. So I would have enough to build this next section of canal, and I think I probably should do that because it opens up another build slot, and it doesn't add another um, barbarian draw. So we're going to defeat him. He's going to send us into the storybook. So not sure what we're going to get. I'm tempted to exhaust her, or sorry, discard her and draw another card to see what I draw. What I draw might allow me to tuck something because I don't like not benefiting from that slot. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to get a blue and I'm going to draw another card. Tucking him gives me a white labor. That's better than the other stuff because the cost to build canal sections increases. And if I want to be building, once I get these double slots, I'll need laborers. So that's fine. I'll tuck that. All right. So if I want to build a canal section and uh, construct a canal and build building, I'm going to have to exhaust something here. So let's, well, sorry, discard. I mix up discard and exhaust. So let's just exhaust her for one labor, and then I'll discard him for a clay and a laborer. I think now that I'm getting clay every turn, I've also can get clay here. I get clay from building canal, so I think I'm good on clay. Uh, so that's why I was willing to discard him. See, I would have enough to just build another hut. But I think I'm going to build a farm instead and build this provision farm. So I'm getting additional provisions every turn since I don't have a lot on my deck. I'm just going to hang on to skip that for now. So let's build this canal section. So 2 calories, 3 white. So we get to reset our buildings. So we are clumsy, clumsy. We get take 2 damage, but we get a clay and a lumber. 2 damage. So we're still, oh no, we lost some real nice cards there. So we're still safe. We're not gonna advance the flood this turn. All right, and to bribe these two is a lumber and a clay. So we could just set those aside. And that still gives us what we need to build a farm. So let's go ahead and build a farm here. And we're covering up a provision slot so we can grab ourselves another provision. And let's defeat that barbarian there. See what that story entry is all about. So it's entry 22. Oh, he's not dead. We killed him. We thought we killed him, but we didn't. So that one goes under history. And then a different one. Oh no, he doesn't. All right, card 36. So we thought we killed him, but he just staggers back to life. Card 36. He's not dead. We also can't bribe him. We could probably defeat him. Can we? We don't have enough resources. No. Okay. We have the right workers. We just don't have the visions to get there. So I'm going to put the black there, get a yellow, put a yellow here, grab, I think, let's grab a clay. We can just exhaust her and get a blue. That's the last blue. So got to use some of these blues. Otherwise, well, we don't get any next harvest because there are none left. Now, I think real low on provisions next turn because I'm going to get 2 barbarians all the way out here. And I'm going to have to take care of 2 of them. So I'm going to need at least 3. I'm getting 2 at harvest. I'm debating whether or not to recruit with this. I think I should. I think I should. So I'm going to grab her, and that's my turn. So you see, I'm kind of what's limiting me this game is resources. But more than that, it's provisions. Provisions to recruit and provisions to defeat barbarians. All right, so end of turn. Let's bribe those two. We cannot bribe the undead, unkillable barbarian, so we take 1 damage, and then we reset our card row. There, advance. Now we're dealing with 5, so we've got to focus on barbarians. We're good on the flood. We're 1 ahead of the flood already, so we're safe there. The next couple turns, I think, have to be focused on barbarians. So let's get our harvest, the provisions to clay, shells, clay, 2 whites, a blue. There are no blues, so we don't get it, and then a worker of our choice. So, see, there's black and yellow for that. I think I want to use up the blue because that way I can keep getting it back. So we need yellow there. A lot of yellow coming. So let's get a yellow. And we draw our 4 cards. 2 left in the deck. So what is going to advance on us? So I can, with this ability, I can just exhaust a card for 2 cowrie shells. And I think probably I'm going to do that in order to get stuff to trade for provisions because I don't need more workers. Um, I don't need more laborers right now, especially because I can't build anything. I'm not going to build a canal section. So I'm just going to exhaust those 2 and get 4 cowrie shells. I'll go ahead and start and I'll heat up this guy, get rid of him. So I'm sent to, he's probably going into history, to entry 32 in the book. He's finally dead. Okay, now we get 1 wood, 1 clay, and 2 cowrie shells. All right, well, maybe worth it in the end. So now we're swimming in shells. All right, so we've got the workers we need there. Before I use that up, I'm going to place a yellow there and get another yellow. So I can save this. At the end of the turn, I'll get it back and I can have it for those other barbarians up there. So let's trade these 2 shells for another provision and spend these to go ahead and defeat her. So we get a shell and a laborer. Look at our hand here. We've got a yellow and a clay. So let's exhaust them. Get yellow and clay. And think for a second. So we've now uncovered here, so we can pay a white and a provision and get ourselves any color we want. We can trade cowrie shells for provisions. So I think maybe we do that. Then we would still have to trade 4 cowrie shells. Well, no, let's get a provision here. So then we're still trading some shells for provision, but then we can feed her. We also get 3 cowrie shells back. So yeah, let's do that. So let's turn this guy into a yellow. then let's head out here and defeat her and get 3 shells. And I'm going to trade 4 shells. Oh, no, just 2 shells, actually. 2 shells for a provision. And then I'll spend that provision in free slot and recruit those 2. And let's, I think a cowrie shell. No, let's get a lumber. Yep. All right, and that's our turn. So we take damage. We can't bribe her. We have no red. We can bribe her with a lumber. So we take 1 damage. And we refresh the row. Another advanced one that sends us into the storybook. So then we shuffle here. Pull our workers back. Our big pile of blue. These all have names. What are the blue ones? Spearmen. The blue are spearmen, red are fighters, black are riders, yellow are archers, white is laborers. I guess that's better than saying like white worker, black worker, red worker. Anyway, they have names. And we'll move on to harvest. So we draw 1 to reshuffle so the flood advances. And 3 more. So we're down to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 10 in our draw pile, so we're in good shape. Started the game with 10, now we have 14. So we have increased the size of our work camp over the course of the game. Clay. Oops, that's a provision. There. And then a worker of any color. Seeing some yellows. Yellows are here. They're also in the cheaper slots. So why don't we grab yellow? And off we go. So get 3 recruits right away. Um, it's tempting to build. By building, I start drawing a 3rd barbarian every turn. So if I build, I probably should try to defeat at least 2 barbarians as well. So let's see if I can do that. So the cool thing is once you build these slots, you now open up these build slots here. So once you construct these canals, first of all, this one is pretty cool. You can start buying laborers directly. I don't know that I'm going to have that, need that, but also more importantly is once you build onto these, you get this colored worker. Um, so you can effectively, if you have a lot of resources, you're trading a white into a red. So you just need to factor that in terms of, well, okay, if I want to come out, you know, I've got blacks and reds possible here. Well, she takes blacks and reds, so maybe I could get that. It doesn't help so much this turn because the cheapest barbarians are blue and yellow. Um, but something to keep in mind. So let's see what I have. So there's 3 laborers and uh, 2 shells. So that's what I would need there. I've got laborers in my hand, so I will have enough to then go ahead and build as well. And I've got some good cards to potentially tuck here. So she lets me draw an additional card every harvest, which accelerates you through the deck, but you know, I found that it's generally a good trade-off. Like that extra card just allows you to do more and it's better. It compensates for going through your deck more quickly. And tucking here is just a lumber. I think it's a little late for lumber. Um, although if I wanted to come in and start building outposts, uh, that would be helpful. Yeah, I think it's a little late. So I think she's what I will take her so I can build that. Um, I'll be able to build a farm too if I want to, because I've got 2 slots. Maybe even an outpost, depending on how I trade. So let's let's continue portioning resources. So she's going to take 2 provisions, 2 blues and a yellow. She's going to take a yellow, so we're short a yellow, and we're short 2 provisions. We don't have any provisions in our hand. Let's use one of these excess blue. We'll place it on this provision slot. So then we have the 1 provision and we'll trade those shells for the other. So we have what we need to build the canal, defeat 2 barbarians, and then anything else is gravy. So why don't we start in? We'll start in with her because she lets us draw another card. So let's see what we get and see if that changes anything about how we proceed. White and a laborer. Not exactly. Sorry, yellow. Yellow's archer. Archer and a laborer. Well, let's do the next canal section. So we get clay, lumber, and we take 2 damage. Let's build a hut. So we'll trade that labor and the resources to build a hut. We'll put a red, cover the red slot, and okay, this one sends us to storybook entry 1. File this into history and add card 10. Add it to my hand. Okay, well, cool. I'm adding this guy to my hand. So now suddenly I've got a ton of lumber in my hand, um, which I think will work because I can actually build an outpost. But before I do, I'm going to tuck her while I think of it. Um, and I need to get a yellow. All right, let's place the blue there and get a yellow, and then we'll turn all these in and defeat her. So we get 2 shells and another lumber. Great. And do some exhausting here. So we'll exhaust him, our laborer. And then I have no sense in discarding any of these. So I'm just going to exhaust the rest of my hand here. So I get a laborer and a rider, 3 lumber. These all go into my exhaust pile. And now let's build our first outpost. So they give us an additional cowrie shell every turn, and we're also being able to, like I said, start treating different colors as interchangeable. So I'm getting plenty of blue, so I don't need to make white blue. Um, although if I uncover blue, then I can also use blue as white. So white, I can cover the needs of the laborers. Mm, but I've also, let's see, got some reds. I think I'll do the red one. here. So covered up the black spot, so I get black is rider. So we get a rider. And let's just go ahead and grab some resources here. So I'll get a shell. I could draw another card. Um, I think I'm in pretty good shape, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we'll draw another card that is blue. Blue is spearman, so I get another blue. And I think that's our turn. So to bribe, we can use a lumber and laborer. Maybe I should have uncovered blue, because now I'm going to be running a bit low on laborers. But that's okay. I've used up all my build slots, and I'm not going to do the next. Well, I do need to do the next canal section. Yeah, let me change my mind here. No new information. Um, well, no, I did. I drew a card. Okay, I'll live with it. Before the end of my turn, I'm gonna trade these cowrie shells for. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna sit on those cowrie shells. I was gonna trade them for provisions and recruit, but now I can buy laborers directly here, so I might want to do that next turn. So we take no damage. Flood advances, so now we're getting 3 slots. And I'm drawing 5 now, so yeah, so the pace the pace starts picking up. You can start feeling a little more tense as you move towards the end of the game. Oh, I get 3 shells now. 2 laborers, spearmen, clay, my 2 provisions, and I get a worker of any color. So if I want to come in and take care of those 2 this turn, I will need another rider, another black. Let's see, I'm good on the canal, so I don't need to build this canal section. I could, I'm not going to uncover another barbarian draw, but more importantly, I need to defeat 3 barbarians this turn to stay ahead. I do have her in my hands, so I can get 2 provisions there. So if I can get those 2, 1, he takes 2, and then let's use a blue here and grab a provision and 2. So there's the provisions we need. You've got blue, blue, black. Yep. Black, black, blue. Yep. We need red, red, and black. So we don't have that. Um, yeah, we wouldn't be able to build that section anyway. I think we're going to need our resources to. Oh, we got whites, got some laborers in our hand. But we're going to need to make some trades here. So let's, first of all, let's turn that blue, play it there, turn that spearman and get ourselves a fighter. Then trade these 2 coward shells for a provision and then add a laborer, use this slot and get a rider. So now we have all the meeples we need to defeat those barbarians. We are gonna, we might have enough after all. So let's just go ahead and do that. So start with her. She sends us to storybook 12 entry. Oh, she did like bonus damage. She just beat us up extra, so we take 2 damage. Oh no, it advances the flood. Um, and because we didn't use up our townsfolk cards, we have a short deck. But we do get 3 shells though. So yeah, so next turn, oh man, now we've got to worry about, we're fine, because we draw 5 cards, so we still have 2 extras. Um, hmm. Yeah, but we're not going to take any damage this turn. Fingers crossed. Because of we're going to take out the rest of these barbarians. So, and I could have recruited her and had her in my discard pile. It's always nice to do that right away. I didn't, so now I will. Otherwise, she'd be in my deck. Give me just a little more breathing room. So let's keep going with these barbarians. So take care of him. He gives us 3 cowrie shells. We only have 2 left in the box, so you can trade at any time. So I'm going to trade 2 shells for a provision, and then get my 3 shells for defeating him. And then we'll come here. So there are 2 provisions and those workers, and we get a laborer and a shell. So now we have all the shells, so we don't need to be shy about using them. So let's go ahead and trade 2 for a provision and then use that provision, recruit her. Oh, he's gone. And here my hand, let's just exhaust my hand for those resources. So we get an archer, 2 laborers, and clay. Let's see. Out of curiosity, we could probably build that section. So we need to get a blue and a black. But we could trade shells for provisions and then transform them here. So we could build that. But then we don't have anything really to do there. We don't have um, any laborers to build anything on those slots. We do take the damage. So I don't think it's worth it. I think instead let's just use these here. I think I will draw another card. I'm not in danger of getting flooded this turn. So black, well, that's useful. You can use the rider to bribe her. All right, so that's our turn. We're going to use a clay to bribe him, and we use that rider to bribe her, so we take no damage. Refill our townsfolk, pull our workers back, and on to the next harvest. So we have 5 cards, and then let's grab our resources. Um, I'm just going to do a trade here. So let's trade 2 shells for provision. So that just leaves enough shells in the supply for me to take my full harvest. And we get a worker of any color. So I'm going to get some red. Well, we've got red, white can be red. So I think maybe we need black to build this next canal section. So we got black in our hand. Maybe a yellow. I want to defeat her. Well, let's grab a yellow. All right, learned my lesson from last time. So let's do our recruiting first. Grab him as well. Build up our discard pile. So our next deck is bigger. And let's start setting aside resources. So let's exhaust her for black. Actually, let's discard her and get 2 blacks. That way, sorry, 2 riders, so we can use 1 here and then we'll use 1 up there. Discard him for exhaust him. I keep mixing that up for 2 lumber. exhaust those two for 2 laborers, and her for a spearman. Okay, so we are totally swimming in our work camp is burgeoning with laborers and spearmen and archers and riders ready to wreak havoc on the barbarians and the canal section. So let's start assigning people. So first we need that canal section. So 2 laborers, a rider, and a spearman. I assume those, warrior types are there to protect the workers. So that's what we need there in those cowrie shells. Um, Out here we need 2 reds and a yellow. 2 reds are fighters. So now whites can be reds because of that outpost. So that's what we need there. Here we've got 2 spearmen and a fighter. So 2 blues and a white equals a red there. There we've got 2 archers and a rider. So we're short the archer. So let's place one of our laborers there and actually, let's place the spearman there and we get our rider. And we need 2 provisions. So for now, we can just use these cowrie shells. We might earn another provision along the way and we can replace that. All right, so we have some left over. We've got 3 laborers left over. We could use those to build into these slots once we build this canal section. So that would be 2 of them. We've got 2 build slots, so we still have 1 left over. Starting to worry a little bit about the size of my deck. I'm thinking, do I use this to draw another card, draw this last card? I've got 5, 10, 13, 14. I think I'm actually okay. I'm unlikely to take much damage this turn. But why don't we do that? We'll place that there and draw here. Oh, cool. 2 provisions. So we also get to reshuffle her. So let's replace those there. And let's just start. So first we'll start with the canal section here. So we take 2 damage and we go to storybook entry 44. Oh, so a barbarian gets killed by a bear. Oh, that's cool. So we discard the leftmost barbarian from the board without gaining its reward. All right, well, 3 defeat. So we don't need those guys anymore. That's handy. It's handy. All right. Now we've opened up some territory to build. So let's do that. We'll build another outpost. Oh, I think I forgot to get an additional cowrie shell for that outpost last turn. Remember to do that this turn. So let's see. We're getting plenty of blue, yellow, red. I don't know. Yellow. I don't think it really matters at this point. I feel like I've got this game in hand. So um, kind of try to move more quickly through the rest of this game. So let's defeat her. So we get a gel and a laborer. Oh, I forgot to take damage. So the flood does advance. So 2 damage for that. All right. So 2 damage. And then let's defeat her. So we get a shell and we can draw a card. And that gives us a spearman. Let's go ahead and get ourselves that spearman. All right, so we're looking pretty good. So next turn we can build the last section and then we just have to survive. So we're going to see 3 barbarians at the end of this turn and then 4 at the end of the next turn. So we'll have to be sure to defeat as many as we can. Um, I do have enough to come out here and defeat him. It's going to cost 2 shells to bribe him anyway, so I may as well use those shells to trade for some provisions. So let's do that. We'll trade 4 shells for 2 provisions. Now yellows also equal reds, so which equals whites. I don't see a reason, since these are interchangeable, no reason to, yeah, so I'll just do this. Let's trade all these and we'll defeat him. So we get a clay and 2 shells. With everything I have here, I could actually defeat the last guy. But I think I want to save my workers for that last canal section. So we'll get a provision there. We'll place here. We'll do yellow. Let's get a wood. And then let's build a farm. It's a spearman, and that's our turn. So let's bribe him with this yellow. Actually, no. Let's hold on to that. We'll just take the damage and then advance. So, oops. Reshuffle here. This game's going pretty smooth, pretty smooth. I think a lot of that has to do with just staying up on barbarians, and also kind of knowing where you're at in this cycle here and trying. I missed it the one turn, but trying to get cards into the discard before you know you're going to have to cycle your deck. So you're just giving yourself that extra breathing space. It's really important. Okay, uh, last turn, I think. So we get our cards, we get 3 laborers, 2 provisions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cowrie shells. Trade 2 cowrie shells for a provision. We get spearmen, a clay, and we get a worker of our choice. So see, reds equals whites equals yellows. We need some black. A rider, I think. All right. So we're going to do this. We're going to see 4. We just have to survive. So we just have to defeat 2 barbarians and then 2 barbarians and build a section of canal. So there's what we need for the canal section right there. And then 2 barbarians. So we've got blue, blue. Oh, these all came back. Blue, blue, and red there. 3 provisions. And then let's just go ahead and exhaust her. Get a provision. And we want to come for him. So we've got a black, exhaust her for another black. And then so we've got red, red, black. Whites equals yellows equals blacks. Or whites equals reds, right? All right, so that's there it is. Um, so first let's well, not defeat, sorry, build this section. Take 2 damage, and we look at story entry 34. So I don't think it's gonna hurt us too bad. Um, yeah, I mean, the upshot is I would file another card, replace it basically with another Hunt and Canal card for a future game. I also get 2 provisions. Yeah, so that's good. And then let's come out here. So 3 provisions and those workers. Get a shell and a laborer. and then two provisions, and these workers here to this him. So we put fill in a laborer. We could rub it in at this point and build a whole bunch and defeat a whole bunch, but we've essentially won the game. So uh, I will just recruit those because I don't like to see them pushed off the end of the board. So come out, we need to make 4 slots. And so we would take damage. We can avoid all damage by bribing. And then there you have it. I survived the end of the round and won this first game of Legacy of You. So don't worry if you struggle in your first game. To win the campaign, you can lose 6 times. If you win 7 times and lose 6, you still win the campaign. So you just have to be slightly better than 50-50. And if you struggle in your first one, the game gets easier. It gives you a benefit for losing, basically. So you kind of a self-balancing thing. And if you do have the Kickstarter, there are some promo changes you can make to make it more difficult if you're finding it too easy. So there are more advanced barbarian cards that you can shuffle in. You could, instead of having 10 cards, you could just destroy 2 and then only be working with 8. Um, or you can increase the number of barbarians across the top row. I think that would be probably the most challenging change, just have that additional barbarian. So you're kind of um, having to deal with that right away and find those advanced, specialized workers to deal with them. I think this is a promo for one of their other games. This is for this one. It's their advanced champion barbarian. You could shuffle in to increase your difficulty level. He'd be pretty nasty to pull up. You need 4 specialized workers of any color. You can't bribe him, and he does 3 damage. So if you see that come up, um, if you aren't prepared with advanced workers, I mean that this game, if this came up first, for example, like if this was on the top of the deck, I think it's an instant loss. I don't know how you, so that'd be kind of frustrating actually, um, to just lose. Oh no, it says, the promo says, add him roughly in the middle of the deck. So you don't have to deal with him right away. So they foresaw that. But if you do this first, you lose. But you could know that he's coming um, and have to deal with him. All right. Well, thank you for joining. I hope this was helpful. Hope it's a fun game. Um, I think after one playthrough, I would be definitely looking, if I were to play it again, to increase the difficulty, because by about 5 games in, 4 or 5 games in, I was like, all right, I kind of know how to do this. I know how to stay ahead. Um, I the benefits from losing, they're really powerful cards. They really give you a leg up um, on the game. And but it's also interesting. If you win a game, you're it's going to get harder. You know you're going to see barbarian fortress come into play. You're going to see food shortage cards come into play that you have to satisfy through rationing or additional foraging. So there are ways it really starts to challenge you. So that's I mean I recommend playing through it and kind of encountering those different challenges as you go along. Um, but uh, yeah, and I suppose if you're finding it sort of easy at some point, even the campaign, you could increase the difficulty level. Um, but thank you for joining. Um, and until next time, happy gaming.